Folks, thanks for coming back to us, and we put the dog away, and we will now continue.
Okay, so social violence is the sort of conflict that happens inside the tribe, inside your family, inside your clan, inside your social level. These are conflicts over a wide variety of subjects, and they have rules, they have scripts, they have predictable moves, counter moves that de-escalate. For example, you talked about the boat, the boat incident. When your friend apologized, said, he did the proper stuff of yes, insurance will take care of it, that should have begun to calm it down. You're approaching him and saying, hey, let me try this, was another way that it should have calmed things down, right? Now, this is the standard, be polite, use manners. There are certain social scripts, which are set patterns of behaviors that you act this way, they act this way, etc. Now, the problem is people have begun to lose track of those. So when I talk about this, it's like when somebody says, well, what if being polite doesn't work? That's a common thing. It's less about that it doesn't work than how many times it does work. The problem that people have is that they don't have anything else to do than just try a social script. Okay. Right? I'm going to be polite. Okay, I'm going to try and soothe this person and give them a face-saving exit way to calm down. We do that, we work with this, like, gee, I'm sorry. And I mean, there's all sorts of stuff about this. One of the bigger ones, and this goes into a don't mess this up, is a sincere apology works wonders. Okay, now notice I had to qualify that with a sincere apology. Whatever, I'm sorry, okay, is not. Okay, that's showing contempt. That'll trigger it. Now, sometimes what will happen is the person has his own scripts, has his own weirdness, etc., and you'll run into something where, like, he'll take your offer to give money, like with this help, he'll take it as an insult. Mm-hmm. That's not your problem.
And that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, it's not your problem. You tried, you attempted, you made a good faith effort at following the script and seeking to resolve the situation. Now, that usually works. So when it does work, yay. Don't get hung up on that being your only strategy.
Okay. So from what part of the problem I see is that the American male, this really doesn't happen with women. The American male is fueled with this.
Does differently, but go on.
Is fueled with testosterone, and we get that testosterone flowing in our bodies, and by God, we're not going to let this guy get the better of us. Even though you might be carrying a gun, even though if you pull the gun, you've not just committed aggravated assault or second-degree assault, depending on your jurisdiction, and that's when you really get into trouble. And that's really what I want to maybe accomplish today, is to give people a little bit of idea how to not put themselves in that situation.
A big part of this is we don't know how to back things down anymore. And people do not know how to be given a face-saving exit. Mm-hmm. Okay, I've actually had to discuss ways not to die with people when I had a weapon on them, right? I had to talk them and give them, this is how to stay alive. Mm-hmm. You're dealing with what should have been, or used to be, but now should be, but we've lost a lot of that, knowing how to back things off. Now, part of this is I have a certain ability to be convincing about the, defenestration is on the table. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times what will happen is if I'm afraid to use force, the person's going to sense that and perpetuate it. So you're talking a really delicate balance between not threatening him, but communicating isn't quite the right word because it's more of a nonverbal leakage that I am willing, capable, and yeah, quite frankly, I have no problem about going physical. So I'm not intimidated by your boogada.
Yep.
I'm not, and there's another part of this, which is not antagonizing him. So it's a delicate balance here. Just because I'm going to shoot you in the face doesn't mean I have to be rude. And that is where you have the advantages of the guy if he's smart, he's not too high or whatever, recognizing that this is going to be a two-way violence. This isn't a safe, he's not going to win by bluffing. At the same time, you're not crossing legal lines that could get you prosecuted and undermine your self-defense plea.
Do you have any thoughts about the individual who is carrying a gun and they find themselves in this type of verbal threatening altercation and how they can extricate themselves from that without having to tip off that they've got a gun?
Yeah.
There's a new crime out there called making terrorist threats.
Yes.
And so if you threaten to kick somebody's ass or threaten to kill somebody, and you've got the means to do it,
yes,
then you have technically violated this new felony out there. And I've seen people get arrested for that
all the time.
I'm thinking it's crazy. It's
well, that's again because they're trying to bluff. They're trying to make a production of, oh, you don't want to mess with me, I'm so dangerous, I'll hurt you. That is not, the bluffing part, and it really is usually bluffing, but it can escalate to the point where it goes physical. Mm-hmm. Part of the thing about escalado is I tell people, don't hit unless you're serious. And like in an argument of like, see how dangerous I am, see how serious I am? And if I don't believe that my threat is being believed, I'm going to walk up, I'm going to hit the person, step back and go, rah, 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 rah. Right? And I've talked to people and I said, you hit him. It's like, no, I didn't. Mm-hmm. I saw you hit him. Right? And again, it's the bluff, it's escalado, it's like poker, where you keep on throwing chips into the pot and all you're holding is a pair of twos. So you don't want to play that game. You don't want to escalate the situation. And that's also something we'll talk about in the class, which is, what is your adrenal stress pattern? Are you a howler or are you a growler? Okay, do you rah, 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 or do you growl? And you need to know that. You need to know what kind of adrenaline pattern you have so you can communicate without making threats. Or if you do, you make conditional threats.
Okay, an example of a growler would look like?
Back off. For people, back off.
I think I'm a growler.
Uh-huh. But see other people, stay back, don't come any closer. Right? Again, howler and growler. The idea of you are trying to communicate, but if you shift gears, if this is not a social situation, if something is going off the rails on a social situation, you've got another type of situation. And the standard pattern is to do the monkey dance, is to, make ruff, 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 ruff. You don't want to do that. And that is unfortunately a very big growing pattern now where you have these young people who will run right up in your face and stop and start yelling and screaming. Right? That's beyond this particular, but again, that's stay back out of my range, stay back, and you communicate Now, the fact that you're communicating, the fact that you do know you don't want to let this guy inside your or his attack range, and you'll back it up, is nonverbal. He has to believe this.
Now, when I'm seeing you say or hearing you say that, I think I'm hearing you say you can't be bluffing that ability to back up what you're saying. You've got to actually have the skills, because I think people would see through that bluff.
Yes.
If not cognitively, then subconsciously or just instinctually, they would see through that.
I really don't know any way to say you are so right on this. I mean, 1,000%. All this other.
Well, here you can pat me on the back.
There you go. Yes, that really is. And this is also. I mean, if somebody is concealed carrying, they have the ability to take a human life.
Yep.
That is an awesome responsibility. Okay. You really don't want to start that ball rolling. So, what you're trying to do is to withdraw from the situation, but at the same time, it is not about threatening, bluffing, trying to scare him off. It's that you're playing a different game entirely. What you're doing, most people, wow. And I mean, I have seen people pull weapons and use them as part of a bluff. Right? Somebody stand there waving a weapon is actually threatening and showing you, see how serious I am, I have a weapon. And people who are caught up in that escalado, that dance game, that adrenaline, and this is fueled by adrenaline, but you're also operating in a different part of your brain. I mean, the stupidest last words ever are looking down the barrel of a gun going, you ain't got the guts.
Yeah, really.
Especially when said in Spanish, by the way.
Okay.
But people do it when they're in the monkey brain. So, what is the monkey looking for? And a lot of this is seeing if you can find what this person wants and what they will settle for. And sometimes, as I said, they just want to make noise. They want to stand out there and rah, 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 rah. Okay, fine. Hey, I'm cool. Let's go.
They may be posturing for their buddies.
Right. It could
bar,
be their buddy. They could have had a bad day at work. They just want to blow off steam. Fine. As long as you stay out of attack range, I'm cool.
Okay. That's a very good
that's
a good tip.
Yes, and that is a very useful thing. When the guy is trying to close the distance, now, sometimes we close the distance to sell the threat. Other times we're escalating ourselves and working our way up to attacking. I don't care which one. You stay outside of that range and we're gonna, we're cool. You start closing in, this is where things become different.
Okay, the vast majority of people viewing this will not have the martial arts background that you've got, or even the police defensive tactics background that I have.
Right.
So they need something other than a sharp word and a gun.
That is so true. And it's also, in the street, growlers they're recognized as far more dangerous. Mm-hmm. That if you start showing certain signs, and this is not a threat, this is not a bluff, this is what I call nonverbal leakage. And if you start showing that while still communicating, you have the message you're sending is way different than, well, you better back off, don't be messing with me, right? What did I do? Was I convincing there?
No.
You sure you want to do this? See the difference?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right. Now, I did not threaten the individual with the second one, right? What did you see me do physically? And this is for the audience.
What I saw you is I saw you change your posture.
Right.
So you were much less defensive. You were, instead of sitting back, you were forward. And so you're in a position where you could jump up and attack if you needed to. You lowered your head to, and that's a nonverbal, instinctual recognition of protection of your neck
Yes.
and your eyes.
Yes.
And then you held the stare of the
Yes.
camera or the people you're looking
Yes.
to, and you didn't blink.
Yes.
You were gonna take. You're getting ready. I'm gonna take your throat out if you do anything.
Now, something I don't know if the camera picked it up, but if you'll notice my foot, I went from my feet being out front to bringing a foot in that I could use a power leg to come out.
Absolutely.
So, in court, with the second one, there is absolutely no verbal threat. And I could, I am not making a production of being threatening, but I am still negotiating. Until, I say that until I pull the trigger, I am negotiating. And that is something that is a different mindset, because I am trying everything in my power to negotiate a peaceful resolution that doesn't require physical violence.
I'm reminded of the scene in Tombstone.
Which one?
Where Doc Holliday says, "I'm your Huckleberry," and who was it? Curly Bill?
It was Curly Bill who came and grabbed Johnny Ringo and pulled him away.
Okay, so...
But Curly Bill saw what the drunk Johnny Ringo did and like, uh-oh.
Yeah, exactly.
But see, that is where, yes, I have the skills, I have the ability, but because I have that, I don't need to woof woof bow wow and make noise. Right? So there's my confidence. There's my, even as I'm ready to go, I'm not adding to the cycle of escalation.
Now another scene enters my mind. That's where Ike Clanton is in the bar.
Yes.
And he's trying to face down Wyatt Earp. And he's all he's doing is bluffing and postulating.
Yes.
So I'm going to have to go back and watch that movie again.
Tombstone is a wonderful movie for so many reasons, because they actually get it right.
Yeah.
Right. And like when Wyatt Earp has got the gun on Ike Clanton's head, he said, "They may get me in a rush, but not before I make your head into a canoe." And somebody goes, "He's bluffing." And Ike Clanton...
No, he's not. No, he's not.
No, yeah. That really is... People know when you're not bluffing, but they also know when you're bluffing. And they know when you can back it up, and they also know when you can't.
Hey, Mark, why don't we take a break?
Okay.
We're not quite sure how this is going to play out as far as being one part or two part or three parts.
It's going to be two parts probably,
Let's take a break, and so then we can pick that up right there with Ike Clanton's head being a canoe.
Yes.
Okay.